Hey there, it's Andrew Sample back with another edition of the Nuclear Podblast. Yeah, I know, you thought we were gone for good. No, we were just busy. Yeah, instead of the normal 3 interviews that we've been doing for the last several episodes, we have 4 this time around. Got a chance to talk with Bill Steer of Carcass in person. They had a stop here in Colorado Springs, so it was cool to talk to Bill before the show, and nice to hear that Carcass are coming back in late 2022 to North America. Also had a chance to talk to Christos from Septicflesh a couple of months ago before the Modern Primitive new album came out, as well as Vogue from Decapitated, and of course now with Machine Head. Great conversation with him. And finally, before the latest round of Bay Strike's back tour dates commenced here in North America, we got a chance to speak with Chuck Billy via Skype. And it's great to hear there's another leg of the Bay Strikes Back tour happening late summer, as well as some off dates here and there with Exodus and Death Angel. So again, 4 interviews this time around for the Nuclear Podblast. We've been busy. Before we get into the interview with Bill Steer, let's talk about some new blastees, so to speak, some new signees to the label. The legendary Dismember. Are you effing kidding me? Wow, I can't, that's amazing. Drummer and legendary producer Fred Etzby stated, after reuniting the original lineup and performing sold-out shows in 2019, the axe-chopping business needed a solid partner to get the festering, complete back catalog back into the streets. The Unholy Alliance of 1990 is reconfirmed. Dismember and Nuclear Blast Records are once again a perfect kill team. Also signing to Nuclear Blast recently, Lucifer, of course featuring Nick A. Anderson Plateau of Helicopters fame, as well as Entombed, and his wife and vocalist Joanna Plateau. And you know, with the Helicopters just signing to Nuclear Blast last year and releasing the amazing Eyes of Oblivion album back on April 1st of this year, it makes sense that Lucifer would eventually sign to Nuclear Blast. The label also signed a worldwide deal recently with UK blackened post-hardcore group Svalbard. Vocalist Serena Cherry comments, I have many fond memories of visiting my local record shop and buying anything that had the Nuclear Blast logo stamped on it. You always knew you were in for a tasty metal treat with a Nuclear Blast band. Most days I have to pinch myself that we have now joined Nuclear Blast. It's a real dream come true for me to work with this amazing label. And announced just a couple months back, In Flames have re-signed with Nuclear Blast worldwide. It's been a number of years since the band were under contract for a worldwide deal, so this is a big thing for both parties involved. Hopefully, we'll get some great reissues from the back catalog out of this as well. So with that, let's jump into the first track for this edition of the Nuclear Podblast. The latest single that announced the signing worldwide to Nuclear Blast. This is a recent In Flames single, State of Slow Decay. And thanks for listening to the Nuclear Podblast.
This is the Nuclear Podblast, the official podcast for Nuclear Blast Records.
There it is, that brand new Municipal Waste, the title track from the latest album, Electrified Brain. Came out on CD and digitally on July 1st, and that LP date is September 23rd. So get your pre-orders in at shop.nuclearblast.com now. Before that, the latest from Belphegor, Virtus Asinaria, from the Devil's album, which came out on July 29th. Kicking off this episode of the Nuclear Podblast, the new single from In Flames, State of Slow Decay, announcing the re-signing to Nuclear Blast worldwide. Andrew Sample with you, the Nuclear Podblast. Thank you for taking your time. Let's talk about some tour dates here in North America. We mentioned during the intro the Bay Strikes Back tour featuring Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel will start up once again on September 9th and run through October 15th with some off dates featuring just Exodus and Death Angel. I'm getting one of those here in Colorado, so I feel pretty lucky. And speaking of Bay Area thrash, Heathen recently announced a 17-date U.S. tour with Warbringer and Misfire in support. Those dates are from September 13th through October 1st, and I think this is a great pairing. Old school metal Heathen, some of the new school heroes, Warbringer. Awesome. We mentioned the new Municipal Waste record out recently. They're currently touring the U.S. in support of the new record, which you just heard, of course. After that, the band will support Anthrax on their 40th anniversary tour for 8 dates in the UK and then throughout Europe through November 5th. That's a perfect tour for Municipal Waste. In Flames are coming back to the States already with Fit for an Autopsy, Orbit Culture, and Vended in support. Check out those dates online. And of course, just announced a week or two ago, Carcass will be supporting Amon Amarth throughout the US and Canada. The tour starts in Las Vegas on November 11th and ends in LA on December 17th. Speaking of Carcass, when the opportunity to interview Bill Steer on their recent run with Immolation and Creeping Death was confirmed, I actually got a little nervous. Carcass is definitely a top metal band all time for me, not to be dramatic. And Bill Steer in particular, I'm such a fan of his guitar work, not only in Carcass over the last 3 decades, but of course all of his work with Firebird, as well as Gentleman's Pistols. Again, this was right before the show here in Colorado Springs, so enjoy Bill Steer of Carcass.
Andrew with the Nuclear Podblast. We are outside of the Black Sheep in Colorado Springs, mere minutes from my house, actually, and sitting on the tour bus with Bill Steer of Carcass. Bill, it's a real pleasure to finally meet you in person after all these years. Fan of so much of your music, and welcome to Colorado Springs.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Now, aside from your appearances at Psycho Las Vegas over the last few years, and it's great to hear you'll be coming back again this year. I'll be there this year. Your last tour in North America was at the end of 2016, I believe. You were also here with Slayer and Testament earlier that same year. But now, back after several years with, in essence, 2 more releases under your belt with Torn Arteries and Despicable, how have these first few shows been as far as attendance and reaction?
Really good, especially considering how late the shows were publicized. You know, I think there was a reason for that delay simply because of the pandemic situation and, you know, making sure we could, you know, get over here, really. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the venues have tended to be quite small, so it's not difficult to pull a reasonable amount of people and make it look full.
As a band that's musically always looked forward with every release and continues to deliver incredible results, but also one that has a classic catalog that is so near and dear to the fan base, do you find it more difficult to actually come up with set lists for live shows, or is it something that you really put little creative thought into?
No, I mean, it is definitely difficult. You know, there's always, I wouldn't say an argument, there's always some kind of tussle between the various band members about what should be in the sets, what shouldn't be. And personally, I don't feel like the set list right now is the best set list we could do. It's just the compromise we reached for now. I'm hoping we can kind of revise it slightly. It just feels a bit lopsided to me at the moment. But that said, you know, there's some new tunes in there, and that's the main thing. You know, we didn't want to be lazy and only stick one new number in there. I mean, there's several.
After the lofty comeback with Surgical Steel and the touring that ensued, the positive reception both critically and from the fans with Torn Arteries 8 years later proves that the band is still capable of delivering above expectations. you guys still write organically as a band in the same room with the three of you, which I think is super important with so many bands that actually do the opposite. In that writing and creative process, are you able to monitor or gauge along the way if you are satisfying your expectations, or is that something that just you roll the dice with?
Yeah, it's a gradual thing. I mean, you wouldn't really work on an idea if you didn't believe in it to some degree. So that's the starting point. And then, yeah, I mean, you know, I would bring in a bunch of riffs, but often they change drastically. You know, they get completely, they go through the mincer, you know, whether it's Jeff's ideas on arrangement or Dan has some really strong ideas too to make things more interesting. So it's very much the three of us bouncing off each other. Sometimes a tune gets finished very quickly. More often than not, it takes a while. You know, we just craft it until we feel like it's finished. Yeah, first and foremost, as you said, you've got to satisfy yourself. Make some music that does something for you personally. Then you can get behind it, and you'll be okay regardless of whether people like it or not. I mean, if you yourself enjoy it, then there's a good chance somebody out there, you know, someone else will.
Follow-up question to that: have you guys been able to get in the same room and be creative in the last year or so at all?
No, absolutely not. We've done a tiny bit of rehearsing for this tour, obviously, but in terms of creating new music, no. I mean, that's almost like a distant memory, because even this album, it might appear to be new to some people, but for us it's like 3 years old, you know, because the label had to sit on it for quite a long time. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll know when the time comes. I mean, I'd definitely be up for making new music, but I think there's a little bit more touring to come before we get to that stage.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to ask, now that you've been removed from the Despicable and Torn Arteries releases for a few years, with the recording being 2017 and 18, I believe, are you confident with working with David Castillo again in the future?
Personally, I'd love to. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, yeah, he has very good judgment. You know, like his, I don't know what you'd say, his aesthetic perhaps, with not just recording but musical choices as well. It's very strong, and with his kind of laid back approach, he lets you be you. You know, somehow he gets the best out of you without forcing anything. You know, he just creates a really good working environment, I would say.
I thought that the, you know, obviously with Surgical Steel, you got the old crew back together for their production of that, and it's fantastic results. But I also thought when Torn Arteries came out, there was no sort of knee-jerk reaction between one production to the other. I think it was somewhat seamless, and the strong points of the band were all, you know, still there. It was pretty natural, it seemed.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to my ears, this record is a little bit more organic sounding than Surgical, and that's exactly what we wanted. Not to rubbish the production of Surgical at all, but it was extremely clinical, and I mean, in a way it lived up to its title, if you know what I mean. Sure. But we did fancy getting something a little bit warmer, and, you know, like I said, a bit more organic, a bit more natural sounding, and, you know, as luck would have it, David was the guy to go to for that. Also, I should mention James Atkinson, who I tracked all the rhythm guitars with in Leeds. He's got a great place up there called Station House Studios. Mm-hmm. So he played a great role in this as well. Yeah. Do
you feel that possibly the reason why the material for the last couple of records has been so strong and well received is that you and Jeff had a chance to step back from the band for more than a decade after Swan Song?
Yeah, I think indirectly that must have been a factor, because when you've been away for something for, I don't know how long it was. I mean, some people told me it was 17 years. Whatever it was a long time. And yeah, it gives you time to reflect. You know, we had no distance from what we were doing when we were, you know, in our early 20s. So then you come back to it, and you sort of reconnect with the things that you love about the band, and things you'd like to improve, whatever it might be. You're also maybe able to enjoy it a bit more just from having aged a bit, done other jobs, you know, so you've got some kind of comparison you can make with the real world. You know?
Different rigs you're playing on now,
things
exactly. Like that, all are inspiring.
Yeah, completely.
Excellent. Now, I try not to look at set lists when a tour comes around, but you already mentioned maybe personally not thinking this is the strongest set list. Are you at least giving everybody something from the entire Carcass catalog on this run?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it is really difficult to get something from every album in there, but there is an element of every era of the band in this set list. Yeah, I mean, I can't see that changing. That's one thing we all do agree on.
I see after this you've got Hellfest in France in June, and looks like some late September through early November dates overseas, so you guys will stay pretty busy. But so you already answered that there's no, at least you haven't been working on any new material. After this year is maybe another dormant period for Carcass, or 2000 or next year, will you plan to still tour? Or
Yeah, I mean, obviously, going on past experience, I mean, I think we toured the USA maybe around 6 times off the back of Surgical.
Right.
So it's very possible that we'll be back more than twice, I know this is very much Jeff's our manager, for those people who don't know. So I think this is his focus as far as touring. I mean, we do stuff in Europe as and when it comes up. But I think the way he perceives it is there's just a bit more interest here than there would be in Europe or, sadly, the UK. I don't know. But for me, yeah, as long as we do get to play those places, I'm happy, because, I mean, I think you should start, start from home and work outwards. We're kind of doing the reverse with this record, it seems, but that's also partly to do with the situation around the world the last 2 years, and
Absolutely.
This happened to fall in the right place where we actually were able to travel.
Well, look forward to seeing the show tonight. Bill Steer, again, thanks for taking the time for the Nuclear Podblast. It's been many years since I've seen the band, so look forward to the set list tonight. Cheers, man. Appreciate it. All the luck.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks for checking out the Nuclear Podblast. Music to mangle your minds.
Brand new track from Soilwork, Dreams of Nowhere, coming from the Overgiven Harten album, August 19th. I'm sure I butchered that somehow. Overgiven Harten, the best I can do. So look forward to a new Soilwork record. And before that, Carcass, the Scythe's Remorseless Swing from the Torn Arteries record. And again, thank you very much to Bill Steer such a gentleman. And again, Carcass coming back with a monomarth later in the year, and I'm going to see them here in just a week or so at CHØKE, Las Vegas. Can't wait. Now, the combination of extreme metal and orchestration is nothing new in today's standards, but Septicflesh have been doing it for over 2 decades now. And I can remember as far back as the Ophidian Wheel album from 1997, their third release, and being super intrigued at the band's inclusion of operatic vocals and stringed instruments and, of course, extreme metal and male and female vocals. It was pretty mind-blowing at the time and actually somewhat confusing, to be honest, at least for me. Since then, the band have delivered 7 more records of inventive and genre-bending metal, and their new 11th album, Modern Primitive, is as impressive as anything they've ever done. It was a real pleasure to speak to Christos a couple of months back via Skype about the new record. So please enjoy here on the Nuclear Podblast. Andrew Sample and the Nuclear Podblast, we are back, and such a pleasure to have Christos from Septicflesh via Skype with us, joining us from, are you in Athens currently?
Yes, I'm in Athens, yeah.
Well, a pleasure to have you, and thanks for joining the Nuclear Podblast.
My pleasure also, thank you.
Christos, congratulations on your 11th album over the course of 3 decades, Modern Primitive, out May 20th, your first release with Nuclear Blast Records. How does having a new home, i.e. a new label, give the band a new outlook or a new take on being a professional band for all this time?
You know, it's a great feeling to be part of Nuclear Blast. After many years with Seasonal Mist, we reached the moment that we have to take the decision to change home, and the right decision. We took the right decision to go to Nuclear Blast. We felt from the first moment like home. The treatment is amazing. You know, we are priority for them. They believe in the band. It seems like we are many years in Nuclear Blast. It's an amazing feeling to be part of this big label, and is a big challenge for us.
That's great to see, especially with a band that has more than 10 records out now. So again, Modern Primitive out May 20th. The core 3 members of the band being together for all this time. How has the songwriting process changed amongst the 3 of you throughout the course of your discography?
No, it stayed the same. We follow the same procedure in a way. We are 3 main composers, and we worked like that in general. You know, I will give them my orchestral template, and they will add their metal parts, the guitar riffs, bass, lyrics, etc. And the opposite, they will give me their metal parts, and I will add my orchestration and my orchestral ideas. It's something that we do all the time. It works great for us. It's good that we are 3 composers, you know, makes our sound fresh in a way, because it will be different if it was one composer, you know. And because we have so many albums in our back, to be a teamwork, it helps a lot.
So the process has stayed the same over the years. It's just you've refined that process as the albums have come.
Yes, because there is no other way, you know, because I'm the person that involves with the orchestral aspect of Septicflesh, and my brother Sotiris, they will be in charge of the metal part. You know,
Understood.
Because we use the orchestra as a big weapon in our disposal. You know, we need to have this schedule, I would say, this compositional process.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Well, you know, speaking of just that, rewind 20 and 25 years, the entire symphonic death metal and atmospheric death metal scenes really didn't exist, but bands such as Septicflesh have never been afraid to conquer new musical territories by combining different moods and musical aspects to create a fresh sound. On Modern Primitive, all of those elements seemed peaked, and you deliver a great record full of twists and turns. What would you say sets this album apart from the last several that you've released?
No, we are fans of soundtracks and classical music, and it was always, our aim to blend these two different worlds together, the symphonic side and the metal part. We learn all these years because we have to deal also with an orchestra that is real, it's not MIDI, and you have to be really, really careful how to proceed the blend of metal and orchestra in the mixing process. For us, the orchestra, it's a weapon, as I said, and we don't use it as a keyboard or as an accompaniment, and it's part of our heart. It's like a fifth member, the orchestra, and we always take the risks to experiment, to search. Knowledge is power, to refresh our sound, to research, and create this mix of two worlds to have an identity.
Yeah, you're right. It's not an accompaniment. That orchestral part is definitely in your face. It's constantly a part of your music, so every bit as important as the metal parts.
Of course, because as I said, it's some of the songs are based in the orchestra, and on top of that we have the metal fragments. You can see how evident is the orchestra, and it's in the backbone of music sometimes.
Great. I wanted to talk about some of the songs in general. Neuromancer, probably my favorite song so far. I love how the song shifts back and forth from pummeling, plodding metal to that airy, atmospheric passages of just the vocals and the keyboards. It creates a feeling of uneasiness during those atmospheric parts because you can sense the oncoming rhythms and changes that are just on the horizon.
Yes, this song, it's my brother's, Scythe. And in general, for this album, he composed the majority of his songs in a 12-string guitar. He didn't use any distortion, in his compositional process. And, I think he played an important role on how the texture and the color of the song has been placed, because he told me he would like to have this intro to be with folk string instruments like mandolin, like oud, like lute, and I think it's a new fresh element for our sound, because one of the composers composed his songs in acoustic guitar, which is strange.
I read that. That sounds pretty cool that has, some sort of a new influence on the band. Another track, A Desert Throne, that breakdown that comes at about a minute and a half in, where the instruments pan right and left, the guitars and the drums. It's such a subtle effect, but really adds an additional element of how the songs continually shapeshift and change. I think it's a really compelling track and something that demands a lot of attention.
Yes, actually, I was not so fan of this part, to be honest. But it's a catchy song, very very Septicflesh song. Resembles the order of Septicflesh. But it's you have your good moments on the album, and not so. I would say, it's an amazing song, but the middle part is not one of my favorites, to be honest.
Understood.
Yeah.
I gotcha. The title track, Modern Primitives, plural, vocally has to be one of the most commanding songs. It's the diverse delivery as well as the background singers really elevate the intensity of the song.
Yes, we want to have a new element like children choir, and we want to mix my brother's voice, Sotiris, and the vocal, then the children choir, in order to give this very cinematic effect. It's very tensed. it's very dramatic in a way. And I think we have achieved that with the use of the children choir.
Yeah, the children's choir, again, finding influence on the acoustic guitar. So there really are some new elements on this record that kind of develop your sound even further. Probably one of the most upfront tracks, I think, on the record, Hierophant. The surging keyboards and the horns and the strings all give it that pulse that really drives the song forward. But what's also cool about the track is the video. Tell us about the experience with filming that.
Well, it was very, very difficult. It was during a heating in Greece. We had like 44 degrees of Celsius, and we had also on top of that the fires. And you can understand the atmosphere was very, very heavy. But, we said that we have to do it during that time. We didn't have so much time,
Mm-hmm.
And we managed to make both video clips and Neuromancer and Hierophant during that time. To be honest, we saw only a very, very small part of the video, because we went to the mountains and we just shoot our performance and we left. The director had, secret all this idea. He told us about, of course, how he wants to present the Hierophant, but we saw the final result a few months ago, and we were shocked by the atmosphere and how he managed to get the whole idea of Hierophant.
Yeah, Hierophant is just an awesome song. You mentioned before we were talking about Scythe in the electroacoustic guitar, but he's also responsible for the artwork, and I'd like you to talk about that because reading the bio for the record kind of tells how the artwork is a little bit more involved with the album title as well as the songs themselves. So describe that.
Well, the cover, it's like a story of creation and destruction. And this is the main message of the album. And with Seth's artwork, all this complexity and all these textures. So in a way how we are trapped in our primitive, thoughts that cannot be tamed and probably will be our downfall. So Tiris and Seth had many discussions about how to present the main message of the album, and I think Seth managed to create something really unique. It's probably one of our best covers, that describes exactly what hidden messages we want to present to our listeners.
Really represents the record well. What do you guys have lined up for supporting the record this summer?
Well, we have some festivals, not many, and the most important is Hellfest in June in France. And after that, we have in October like 2 months tour with Hypocrisy, The Agonist, and Horizon Ignited in Europe.
That's a great bill.
Yes, it's very good lineup. Hopefully, will happen. We don't know yet. You never know what would happen with the COVID, but looks that, we return in a kind of normality, and this is very promising.
Great. I hope to see you guys in North America. It's been quite a while from what I recall. It's been many years since I've seen you guys play in Los Angeles the last time I saw you play live, so hopefully we can get you over here sooner than later. And I wanted to say I've always enjoyed, especially on this record, lyrically, how, there's not a lot of fantasy going on. You guys really like to speak about how you think the deconstruction of man is happening and the world around us and the elements of the physical earth and things like that. So I really appreciate that with your lyrics.
Yes. We are not in the best moments now. We are living in a crazy world, and we want to get this message, that everything has been really, really fucked up in a way, And we are. To be honest, I'm not pleased with the situation. Things that you couldn't imagine before can happen now with the pandemic, with the war, and really, it doesn't look nice and promising at the moment.
Thank you for your time, Christos. The new Septicflesh record, Modern Primitive, May 20th, worldwide, Nuclear Blast. Congratulations on your new record label as well as the new record and 3 decades of intriguing metal. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is the Nuclear Podblast.
Into the void, our wild gaze turns the other way to shield ourselves from the pain. Wasting failure through the eyes of time. Through the eyes of time. What in the distance brings us to resolve? Reveal the paradigm that shifts and turns forevermore. Where is the fire? Where is the spark? When this final hour will fight the construct with the asymmetry. Take out the virus at the core. We sight of this ray that knows us closer, that slowly grinds us further down. Wasting nothing through the eyes of time. We are silenced at every turn. Where is the fire? Where is the spark? When this final hour, where's the fire? Where's the spark? When the silent hour, where's the fire? When the dark, we have come to a needless end. What in our lives brought us to this point? This new direction that shifts and turns forevermore. Where is the fire? Where is the spark? When this final hour, where's the fire? Where's the spark? When the silent hour, where's the fire? When the dark, we have come to a needless end.
Back with the Nuclear Podblast, that's new stuff from Halo Effect, Days of the Lost, their new record coming out on August 12th. That was The Needless End. Get it worldwide, August 12th. Before that, you heard Septicflesh with Neuromancer from the Modern Primitive record that came out back on May 20th. That's right about the time where we got to speak to Christos Antonio, and I appreciate him taking the time via Skype. That new record is just something else. Some more Nuclear Blast tour dates to take note of. Carnifex have announced the Dead in My Arms 15th anniversary tour, which will also feature Spite, Oceano, and Left to Suffer. Those dates run from September 23rd in Fresno, California, to October 29th in Pomona, California. Immolation are supporting Cannibal Corpse, During their upcoming trek across the US and Canada, Dark Funeral and Black Anvil are also on the bill, and the dates run from November 3rd through December 9th, with the tour hitting Denver on December 2nd, which will be a part of the 2-day Decibel Metal and Beer Fest, which sees its first time coming to Denver. And also, speaking of Denver, Colorado, Chemists will be touring with Trivium, Between the Buried and Me, and Whitechapel. A great tour for those guys to land. Those dates run from October 2nd in Garden City, Idaho at the Revolution Concert House, and the tour wraps up at the Wiltern Theater in Los Angeles. And man, I used to live 2 blocks from the Wiltern Theater in Koreatown. What a fantastic venue. The third interview in this episode of the Nuclear Podblast, we got a chance to talk to Vogue of Decapitated fame, and of course more recently of Machine Head. The new Decapitated record, Cancer Culture, easily one of my favorite albums of the year so far. Some different mood swings, tempo changes, always keeping it interesting. And I appreciate Vogue's time via Skype on the Nuclear Podblast. Back with the Nuclear Podblast, this is Andrew, and big pleasure right now to welcome Vogue from Decapitated via Skype. Thanks for joining the Nuclear Podblast. Are you at home right now, Vogue?
Yes, hello Andrew, how are you? Yes, I'm at home right now here in Krakow, Poland, spending good times with my family. Just before the releasing of our new album, Cancer Culture. It's going to be releasing in a few days, May 27. So really good times right now.
I'm excited about the record. I've listened to it several times over the last few days. I had a nice list of interview questions saved on email. You know what? Sometimes those things have a chance or a way of just disappearing. But that's okay because I like this record enough and I've spent enough time with it that I can still do this interview, no problem. First of all, May 27th worldwide, the release for Cancer Culture, your 8th album overall. We all know that the pandemic over the last couple of years has enabled some bands to actually take advantage of that time, dig a little bit deeper, and possibly deliver albums and songs that are on different levels than those bands have experienced in the past, whether it be just being able to spend more time on your songs or just have more time to explore new territories. And I certainly think that has happened here with Cancer Culture. This album is chock full of things that your fans will recognize from you over the years. You're not writing yourselves out of your fan base, but at the same time, you have brought in some new ideas and nuances that really lift this album, I believe, on a different level than you've experienced before. I think these riffs and songs can go toe-to-toe with any extreme metal band worldwide. So congratulations on this record, and I'm sure you're stoked for May 27th.
Thank you so much. I'm 100% agreed with everything what you just said, because the COVID times give us opportunity to just spend more time, way more time. Actually, that was the first time since 20 years, since first album, that I have 2 years without any shows, without any going out for the tour, no going out for the festival. So I could really sit down in my home studio, sitting here and focused on every single riff, and became with the new ideas and so many riffs, like so many things going on this album, and every song is in the different flavor. I really have it this time, and we really spend this time, use this time very productive. So we've been making sure that every riff, every arrangement, it's something that we really want to release this time. This time in COVID gives us, it inspires us to make a great record, which is Cancer Culture. I'm really proud of this record, and give us so much time to become with the new ideas, like with even some guest appearances from Tatiana, from Rob Flynn. I have to say also, like, me being in Machine Head, also like spending some times with Rob on tour with Machine Head also inspired me from the different side of like thinking about our arrangement, thinking how to play, how to deliver some of the riffs, how to like a key changes, like just everything around that been happening all these last years. Me being in Machine Head, me being being in COVID times, everything, having more time for spending in the studio, for the compositions, give this amazing result, which is our new album for sure.
I think it sounds like everything is calculated. There's no let's say there's no songs that are left for chance. It just really seems like all of these ideas have been hardened and worked out to the perfect level for each song. Again, it's crafted very well, and there's, I think, 9 total songs and 10 total tracks. So one might think, oh, why didn't they give us more songs? But every one of these songs is so good. So again, kudos to you and congratulations for delivering such high caliber metal.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it's basically 10 songs, including the opening intro for the album. The whole thing, it's 37 minutes, which I think it's enough. I mean, I personally, I don't really like to listen too long albums, and for this kind of music, I think 37 minutes is just like perfect length. It's enough. The album is really powerful. It's quite intense compared to last few records we did, like Anticold or Blood Mantra. It's probably the most intense album since Organic Hallucinosis or Carnival is Forever. That's for sure. We have a new drummer in the band, James Stewart, who spent his last 11 years with Vader, and he's just like incredible drummer that I was sure I wasn't blocked in any ways, that I could write music, anything what comes to my mind about, like even really fast riffs, really fast drumming, blast beats, have any kind of crazy drum feel. I could imagine, like, this guy, he's able to do it. So I was in a very comfortable situation having him on the board this time. Also, I have to say that Rasta, he did amazing job. For me, he did the best vocals.
Oh, they're great. Both those performances are absolutely amazing.
Seems that in Decapitated we have probably the strongest team since years right now, talking about members. And also we have Paweł Pasek, our bass player, back in the band, because he was out of the band for a few years. He was on the bass, playing bass during the Blood Mantra times, and he played all the best tours when we've been touring with Lamb of God, with Children of Bodom, with Meshuggah, all these best tours he did, and he was out from the personal reasons, and right now he's back, which gives, like, the good energy he has. It come back to the band, plus James Stewart on the drums, which is also just like an amazing down to earth guy. I have a feeling that this is just like the best Decapitated lineup since years, with all respect for all other members that been before those guys. We have a really good chemistry is there, like, between us, and we have just like such a great time and on every tour right now, and every show.
That's great to hear that you guys are getting along so well, and that you realize that this lineup is so important. Now, your albums have always been produced well. They've sounded crisp and clear. This time around, you employed the services of David Castillo to mix the album. He's got quite a name. And, of course, producer extraordinaire Ted Jensen on this record. So tell us about working with those two individuals.
So I hear about David Castillo for the first time when I will listen. It wasn't like not last, like some of the latest Carcass release. I pay attention for the production for this album. I was like, wow, who mixed that? Because the drums and everything sounding different and sound big, and the drums, especially drums, sounding like you are standing there, like just really close to the drum kit, and it's so, yeah, as you say, like crystal clear and powerful in the same time. Sometimes, like, Decapitated riffs are not easy. It's sometimes really fast, really technical, and we need this production to be as clear as possible, so everyone can catch the details. I also checked the David Castillo also mixed this like Sepultura albums, and also he been mixing in Catatonia, and he been working together with Opeth and some other great Swedish bands. So I checked the mixes he did, and I was 99% sure that he is the right person. And he became really such a great guy, also like easy guy to work with. Sometimes mixing album is just like a
it's like a battle.
War.
Yeah, it's a battle.
Yeah. And this time, it was one of the easiest time for mixing that album. It actually, the first version of the mix he sent me for the first song was, I changed just exactly two things, something in the EQ of the guitars and the level of vocals, and that was it. He just feels perfectly what we looking for. His mix was so great. So we've been really happy. Like, it was so relief after the first song he sent.
Well, speaking of just the record itself, you mentioned the intro first, but the album song starts out with the title track, Cancer Culture, and goes straight into the other video and single, Just a Cigarette. Now, those two songs, to me, are showcase maybe a little bit more of what fans are used to, the utter brutality, the hyper speeds, time changes, signature changes, all of that keeps it very interesting. It isn't until like the fourth song, Hello Death, with Tatiana from Ginger on it, where I think the onion layers, so to speak, start to peel away and you start to get into the maybe more different elements of this record. So tell us about the importance of that track and her vocal on this.
For sure, the Hello Death track, it's the most experimental song on the whole record, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And not even that we have a Tatiana singing in that song, but in general, this song is really, let's say, progressive. Kind of comeback for like organic hallucinosis times, because there we have really like sharpy riff on the beginning, and then really the most technical riff on the album, probably in the mid part when Tatiana is singing and I do this crazy riff together with her singing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I've been looking this song. It's the last song I write for the record. So I leave this last song just before entering the studio. Like, okay, let's do something different. Let's do something experimental. Let's surprise people. Even more than they can expect, and that was the goal before I was started that song. I trying to deliver something crazier, something really extreme and surprising, and also catchy, because and the last part of the song is really epic. The riff that never happened in Decapitated is very simple on the end and very melodic. And when Tatiana is singing there together with Rasta, they like it's like this kind of cooperation, like question and answer between them.
Yes,
it's very unique. It never happened in Decapitated.
I also like I said, the placement of that song on the record, track number 5, the fourth song, because I think that kind of steers the album in a different direction. Not necessarily different, but I think, like I said, the onion layers sort of start to peel away. And right after that is when Iconoclast comes up, and that's the vocal track with Rob Flynn. Now that's a brutal track. That's a headbanger. Did you have this song in mind for Rob right away when you guys spoke about him being on the record, or is it something he chose? How did that come about?
No, I didn't. When I make this song, I didn't think about Rob. Became after, when I have almost like a full demo of the song. This kind of ideas happening in just like in the moment, that someone threw the idea. I don't actually remember how it happened. I knew that I have also kind of special song for the record. It's just one song like that on the record, more like thrashy. It's very brutal still, but it's maybe more thrashy, but still have death metal elements in the mid part, and still have this, I would say, like more like Mastodon kind of riff when Rob is singing. I've been listening a lot of Mastodon last few years as well. I have to say, been influenced, not for them, but I've been listening still again lots of Slayer, lots of things like that, like Morbid Angel, and
well, again, we talked about the record coming out May 27th worldwide, and I wanted to ask about your schedule through the rest of the year, because obviously there's a new Machine Head record coming out too. So tell us what you have booked for the rest of 2022 so far.
All right, talking about my plans for the rest of the year, it looks like it will be really busy, starting exactly in 2 weeks on the Mystic Festival in Poland, in Gdańsk. We've been playing on the warm-up day for the Mystic Festival, which including bands like Judas Priest, Opeth, who else? Merciful Fate.
Just a couple of big names.
yeah. So we're starting summer festival season here in Europe. It's gonna be really busy. We're gonna visiting Hellfest in France and Resurrection in Spain, Grasspop in Belgium, and few really nice festivals. Then we have a few feeling shows with Suffocation and Napalm Death here in Europe as well.
All right.
Which is amazing. I can't wait. And then end of August, I started with Machine Head, 2 months in Europe with Amon Amarth, long tour.
What a package that is.
Yeah, it will be probably my biggest live experience talking about the tours. It's all arenas, and I love to play venues. I love to play small venues like 200, 150, 300 people. It's great. Love it. But this will be the biggest tour probably in my life. Yeah, for sure. Just arenas, including Wembley Arena.
Oh, man, really? Wow.
Gonna be amazing. And then 1 week after the tour, we going on tour with Despise Icon here in Europe, Decapitated Despise Icon co-headlining tour, UK, Europe.
I've worked with those guys in the past. I think they're great. Yeah, great guys too.
Great guys. I think we've been touring together somewhere in States and Canada back in the days, like with some of the first Summer Slaughter tours.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, so it will be good to just have these guys again in the tour bus and just talk about old days.
Well, that's great that you've got a lot of support for the new record lined up. Vog, anything else you want to say for the Nuclear Podblast before we part?
Well, I would just finish it simple. Like, thank you very much for taking your time. Thank you for saying really good, amazing words about our new record. It's really important record for me, for the band, for management, for the label as well. It's after really a long time, after really crazy years we had in the band and COVID and personal life, we are here right now with the new record. We are really excited because this is our comeback for the stage, and we cannot wait to see you all on the shows, and really looking for what the future brings.
Yeah, you've definitely delivered on your end, so thank you for taking the time, and thank you for this record. Vog from Decapitated, all the best this summer, man, and thanks again for joining us on the Nuclear Podblast.
Thank you very much.
Fire
Thanks for checking out the Nuclear Podblast. Music to mangle your minds.
That is the title track from the latest Origin record, Chaosmos, here on the Nuclear Podblast. My name's Andrew Sample. Thank you so much for taking your time and spending it here. New stuff also from Decapitated before that, the title track from their latest album, Cancer Culture. And thank you once again to Vogue for such a fantastic and in-depth interview, getting that record one of my favorites of the year so far. Before we get into the interview with Chuck Billy, let's run down some vinyl releases from Nuclear Blast, some pre-orders as well. The Machine Head of Kingdom and Crown double LP comes out November 25th, also available on cassette, CD Digipack, and CD Long Box on August 26th. That's the worldwide digital release date as well. Creator, Live at Bloodstock 2021 LP. There's a few variants of that available, including Black and Clear Swirl, $34.99 US. That's available August 12th. A Paranormal Evening with Avantasia CD comes out October 21st. Now, the Earbook and 2 LP black vinyl versions come out October 28th for that Avantasia release. Also available on October 28th, the reissue of Dimmu Borgir's Puritanical Misanthropic Euphoria. Yes, various 2 LP variants and box sets are available. There's also a 3 CD Digipack version as well. The new Epica release, We Still Take You With Us, vinyl box set and CD box set and triple black vinyl box set and CD box set out September 29th and triple LP vinyl out September 9th. Electrified Brain from Municipal Waste once again coming out on LP September 23rd, as well as Chaosmos from Origin, Orange and Blue Galaxy vinyl September 23rd. Some new cassettes available at shopnuclearblast.com from Danzig, the Skeletons, as well as the Black Laden Crown release, Burning Witches, Witches of the North on cassette, as well as Venom Inc. There's Only Black, the upcoming release from those guys. It's all for you at shop.nuclearblast.com. As mentioned before, the Bay Strikes Back tour coming back, and we'd interviewed Chuck Billy before the last run here in the States commenced, and I was hanging on to that interview knowing that there will probably be another line of dates released, so that's good timing that we can play the interview now before the next run of dates starts for the Bay Strikes Back tour, featuring, of course, Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel. Now there's some off dates as well with Exodus and Death Angel. We're getting one of those here in Colorado, and I'm super excited about that. So here's the latest from Chuck Billy here on the Nuclear Podblast.
Andrew Sample back with the Nuclear Podblast. We have Chuck Billy joining us live. Chuck, thanks so much for your time, man. The Bay Area Strikes Tour just kicking off here in a couple of days, April 9th. You've been able to rehearse with Dave Lombardo recently and the rest of the gang. Looks like you guys the 5 of you were in the same room for the first time last week in a long time. I can imagine the anticipation is almost as high with the band for this tour as it is with the fans.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trapped at home for 2 years trying to get, I think this is the third time we postponed the tour. This will be the final and we finally get to go. But yeah, we've been working with Dave, a couple rehearsals before Alex came up. Alex, this is his first rehearsals with us this week. And things are going good. Yesterday was the last rehearsal. They're loading the trucks today, and we head out tonight. So, we're really looking forward to it.
Well, with Dave back in the fold, people are obviously talking about the Gathering record from way back. And I remember Testament 2 nights in a row at the Whiskey in L.A., sold out back in the day. Is there any talk about bringing back some Gathering material just for the occasion, or are you guys concentrating more on new material for this run? Tell us what's in store.
Yeah, we're definitely bringing back some Gathering stuff. Dave jumping in and have to learn a whole new set of songs. He plays in like 4 bands. I'm sure he's got all kinds of songs in his head. So we figured, it'd probably be easier to throw some of the Gathering stuff that he wrote, to get that down. But the funny thing is that, we've seen Dave, over the years and run into each other at places and always mention how great it was to do the Gathering record, but also wouldn't it be cool to kind of get back together and play the whole record in its entirety at some point? And it's always just kind of like a thought. And, we always say, man, wouldn't it be great? And then this opportunity happened. And so we were like, wow, maybe now we can really actually try to make a plan to do something like that in the near future. So, it was great to have him back. I know when we announced Gene, leaving the band, and just to clear the air, Gene, no bad feelings. Gene just had some stuff with Dark Angel and Death All, and I think he's probably got some Death Clock stuff in the works. The scheduling just didn't line up. We didn't have our tour dates booked and locked in yet, so it turned out just to be a scheduling conflict. And after being home 2 years, we're like, well, we can't just sit at home. we need to get back to work. So we decided, just go ahead and go, Gene. We're not pressuring anything, and I wouldn't say Gene would probably never be back and jam with us again, because that's always a possibility. Gene, his last jam with us, just to let you know, we actually recorded the Titans of Creation record in its entirety. We did a shot of video with Gene, was the last thing we did with him. So there'll be something pretty cool coming out with that, with Gene's kind of final performance with us. But, having Dave back, when we did the announcement, it wasn't but like an hour later that Dave wrote back to me and said, hey, man, give me a call. I'm open to, jam with you guys. And I was like, wow. So I called him right away and just said, dude, if I'd known you were ready, I figured you're in 4 bands. You had enough scheduling issues going on. That's kind of what we're avoiding right now. And he said that, I got, the other bands, they just have nothing in the books, and, they're not doing a lot of shows. So he's looking for something to do. So the timing was like, okay, perfect. We got three tours booked right now. You want to jump on board? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So
That's
that kind of
amazing.
opened the door. I mean, we're not saying he's going to be here forever, but we're going to just take one day at a time and one tour at a time and just see how it works out.
We'll talk about having, sort of the best of both worlds with the band. You have arguably one of the most world-class drummers leaving your outfit, and then to announce, well, we're going to get Dave Lombardo to fill in for right now.
Yeah, and we actually, when it happened, of course, the word got out there, and a lot of, named, drummers, we had contacted, and there was possibilities, and it was just, trying to see if it'd work out. And then we're also getting a lot of audition videos from people that contacted us, and we'd send them 3, 4, or 5 songs, and they would do a video and send it back. And we had a bunch of great players, but then, of course, if Dave Lombardo says, hey, I'm ready, then you go with Dave, right?
You kind of move him up to the front of the line, yeah. Well, Titans of Creation, we just talked about, it's 2 years old now, but it's your newest record, and because you haven't had a chance, to tour the world or in all the places you'd like to and support the album, to me, it's like, it almost seems like a new record just because you haven't had the shot, to bring it to the world. So, with that, the caliber of material from the last few records has just been so stellar. Have you guys began putting any skeletons together for new material, or what's in the works?
Yeah, well, thanks for that compliment. But, and I think they are some of our best stuff that we've written, probably the last 4 records, even 5 records, all the way back to The Gathering. I think that's kind of been the shift in the band and really finding our identity and just kind of, I think when Alex kind of got back and we had Louie and Greg, the original guys, it really did change for us where we weren't writing necessarily for anybody else but ourselves.
Right.
Because we were just looking at the opportunity as, what? When I beat cancer, I wasn't sure I was going to play music again.
Mm-hmm.
I'd looked at myself in the mirror, lost my hair and everything. I was just like, I didn't see myself, the performer Chuck, doing it or having the opportunity, taking so much time off. But when that reunion came back, it really just gave us wow, we're going to get an opportunity to finish something that we started together. And that kind of just changed the whole mindset in the band. And, maybe it's a little selfish, but we were just writing songs that made us cool and happy. Like, man, I'm digging that. And, no matter what, because when you write a record, you always got to think, well, what's somebody going to think of this? If we play a slower ballad on this record, what's people are going to say to think about that? We had none of that once we had kind of the reunion. And fortunately enough, I think it really improved our writing because we just wrote what we feel. And it just didn't feel like we're, you always have a friendly competition with your peers and stuff, but it was out the window. We were just like, whatever. We're just lucky to get to do this and have a chance to play again together and write some more music. And, we just happened to help us improve our writing because those records from formation up till current, I think they've gotten better and better. And we just, we found our, who we are, I guess, in a sense. So
that makes all the sense in the world. You said you were able to finish something that you started, but to also be on, possibly just a whole higher level, a higher plane than when the band was back in the day. So few bands that have been around for this long seem to get those opportunities.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it for this current record is like we did the Brotherhood of the Snake, and it was a good record, but it took me and Eric like almost 2 years to kind of put it all together and just couldn't seem to finish the songs, just banging our heads against the walls. And it was really took a toll on me. Like, man, that process I don't want to go through that again. So when we wrote the new record, just because I knew what it took for Brotherhood, I'm always the guy when I get a riff from Eric, he'll play me a bunch of stuff and say, okay, this is the verse, this is the chorus, this is a little bridge. I'd always challenge it and say, well, no, I hear me singing this is the chorus and move this and maybe come up with a new riff here. I was afraid that if I did that again, we'd probably be in a 2-year writing block like the Brotherhood, and I didn't want that. So I just said, Eric, give me everything you got, and I didn't challenge anything. I just said, I'm just going to take it in, soak it in, and do my best. But what it really did is it actually challenged me and pushed me out of my comfort zone because there were some riffs and maybe even some songs I was like, no, I don't want to put that on the record. It just doesn't feel right. But in the end, when we completed them and completed a song like City of Angels, I didn't want that on the record. It just didn't feel right. But once I wrote the lyrics and went back and recorded it, and when I went in to record it, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just kind of put it together as I went, and it ended up being like, really killer song, and really is one of the top songs on the record.
Phenomenal song.
So yeah, and so I just think the process again, and I used on that song maybe like 3 different voices that I have, and I was like, I'm getting, after writing songs for like 35 years, still be able to experiment and try new things, I thought was pretty cool. And the outcome was like, wow, it made for a really good record. It's just, things happen for a reason, and the process just kind of made it happen on this record.
Well, the tour with Exodus and Death Angel, like you said, has been in the works. You've postponed it. You did have that initial run in Europe in early 2020 when some members of the bands came back, obviously positive with COVID. Again, this seems so natural when you put the 3 bands together, but how has it affected your friendship and working relationship with these other band members that you've known forever?
Well, I mean, I think like when we started the Bass Strikes Back, we'd been trying to put together that package for quite a bit, and just all of our schedules just kind of didn't work out. So we kind of made a conscious effort with let's get all of our agents together and get them talking, let them sort it all out.
Right.
And when they did, and when we got to do the tour in Europe, usually when you go on tour and meet bands you don't really know, and there's even like new bands you haven't met before, it's always kind of the learning who they are and what they're about. And by the end of the tour, you usually become pretty good friends. This tour was like we all, I think 45 of us or something, flew with the band and crews, and they were all band and crew that we've worked with and known. So when we got there, it was like we brought our Bay Area on tour with us, and it was just like a cool vibe. We were just like, man, no attitude, no drama. Everybody got along. We had like a really good time together, and we were just like, this was pretty cool. And that's why this tour actually took so long to happen, because we had the opportunity to maybe go out a little earlier during COVID, but we listened to other bands and crew people that we knew that went out that said, it was good, but it was just different, and actually kind of wasn't fun because we're all in our own bubble and we couldn't go out on our days off, and it just wasn't the same. And we thought about it and said, we had such a good time on the tour, we don't want to go out there and do that. We want to go out and have fun like we did in Europe and kind of just carry on like we did. So we chose just to kind of postpone it until the time was right, which is looking like now.
Excellent. Well, Chuck, thanks so much for your time. That's all I've really got. We look forward to the Bass Strikes Back tour, kicking off in 2 days, April 9th, out there in San Luis Obispo, California. I will see you at the Summit in Denver on May 19th. So look forward to saying hey in person and seeing the tour. So thanks, Chuck.
All right,
appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Do you believe in the darkness below? Well, I can't so live up if you really want to know. As I do the life between bad and evil, look at it, touch me now, true believer. Born in sin, will I pledge my evil love? Violence is
Remember that one? Yeah, of course you do. True Believer from the Gathering record from Testament, of course, featuring Dave Lombardo on drums and James Murphy on lead guitar, if you forgot that. Big thanks to Chuck Billy once again for joining the Nuclear Podblast and talking to us before the last run of dates for the Bass Strikes Back tour started, and of course announced a while back another line of dates running in September with some off dates with Exodus and Death Angel. Two very important albums that I don't want you to forget about. One came out back on June 10th. That's the new Creator record, Hate Uber Alice. And coming from Blind Guardian on September 2nd, The God Machine. It's going to do it for me on this edition of the Nuclear Podblast. My name's Andrew Sample. Thank you very much. Thanks to the Nuclear Blast North American office. Also, hello and a big thanks to the Nuclear Blast South American office, who are now transcribing the Nuclear Podblast in both Spanish and Portuguese. So cheers to you all and thank you. Got a couple of tracks left. We'll finish things off with the latest from Machine Head, Choke on the Ashes of Your Hate, from the Of Kingdom and Crown upcoming record. But this here from Oceans and their latest record, Hell is Where the Heart Is, Volume 2, The Longing, which came out back on July 29th. This is I Want to Be Whole Again. And thanks again for listening to the Nuclear Podblast.
is the Nuclear Podblast.
Conspiracy, soulless enemy, dead for all to see. Look around and see the great decay. Violence turns the fearful into slaves. Show on the ashes of your rage. And it's all too late. Look around and see the great hypocrisy glittering inside its rotting cage. Society lost in vanity, paid to slowly die. Lifeless to pervade soul, incarcerate, cutting like a knife. Shoving their vile venom down our throats like on a pen. Force feed their lives back like medicine. Show on the ashes of your rage. And it's all too late. Look around and see the great hypocrisy glittering inside its rotting cage. Chaos cratering, riots, anarchy, lawlessness abounds, all of us hellbound. We're the damaged ones, left with the damage done. We don't care no more, this is fucking war. Chaos cratering, riots, anarchy, lawlessness abound, all of us hellbound. We're the damaged ones, left with the damage done. We don't care no more, this is fucking war. No take on bastard, go to your master. Dead man, no worry, welcome Hellfury. Identity burning you and me, sinners unafraid. Lowing like a shackled animal. Chaos slaughter, only time will tell. Choke on the ashes of your hate. Yeah, it's far too late. Look around and see the great hypocrisy glittering inside its rotting cage. Choke